Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have just finished our game now. We're here for some post-production chats and shenanigans, see kind of what we will correct with our opponent, and maybe where we went wrong, or where we could have learnt a little bit better. So, interestingly enough, I think that was actually a pretty fine mission for both of us. I think we definitely actually did pretty well. We committed to our lanes, which is kind of when you see something like what's this one? When you see something like D and B as an example, you've got the citizens on the four corners. And so you'll see someone kind of take these portals in the middle, like we both saw, and then almost immediately split off, and you kind of have this lane-in situation where it's left versus right, or left versus my left versus your right, and your right versus my left, as strange as that is. So you've got kind of like these lanes down here. And that's very much what you're going to see. And your job kind of at the start of that game is to say, cool, what is my cooperation here? What kits do I want to put together? What crew should be going with what crew? And how are they going to kind of complement each other? You then, exactly as we saw with kind of Shuri down here and Doctor Strange
in the middle,
you say, who am I going to support? That's when you have like the 5 characters. If you have 4 characters, it's a little bit rougher, because I think you're a turn behind by taking these middle ones. So you're definitely looking for a 5 character list on that.
With those splits, absolutely, So a really interesting game. I think once again the dice gods were rather cruel to you rather than being kind to me. There were a lot of blankouts on your side of the table, where you should have saved. It happens. You should have saved, but there's statistically you should have been saving 1 damage when you were saving 0, sort of thing. It's I'm not I'm not going to tell him I win by any means, but I think it was definitely a big part of that is that I was dazing characters where I should have been leaving them with 1 health, sort of thing, and that is such a big game changer. But kind of glossing over that and kind of studying down on the kind of the breakdown of the list, I was really happy. So this is the first time I've bought Black Panther in ages, and basically where my last time I used Kingpin, I realized he is incredibly tanky. The 7 wounds with Kingpin, so I'm talking about Kingpin here. So 7 wounds, being able to remove 1 of the damage for a power. He can sit on objectives and he can have a really, really good time. Eventually, you'll gain up the power to do Hail to the King, which is just a really solid attack because you're generally going to be throwing. You're going to be disabling with the stagger. Really, really solid. Huge. Yeah, huge part of it. And so last time I used him, I literally put him on a flank by himself. Really slow. He's not going to be doing any crazy movements. Where you put him up on a secure objective and he just sits there and everyone tries to deck him and it doesn't work. Allying in Black Panther suddenly amplified that whole thing by themselves. Even though it was only 2 of them there, they basically got the constitution of 3 or 4 characters because Black Panther's adding blanks and Kingpin's not. And then even when Black Panther flips, his vibranium armor makes him even more tanky because he gets to add 2 dice to his defense. I mean, admittedly, you have to start paying power at that point, but
you just got flipped, so logically you've got at least 6 power, give or take.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then Kingpin generally kind of, unless if he's doing Hail to the King, he's a bit on the weaker side of punching stuff out. But so throwing size 3, Hail to the King, really big. So suddenly these 2 are really happy to sit on the flank by themselves because you've got Black Panther, who's really quick, who can zip onto objectives or try and pick up citizens if needed. Really good output and automatic pushes and all that. So that was a really fun flank that I when I was deploying at the time, I wasn't actually thinking about them as a cohesive unit. I was thinking about, okay, Black Panther's going to go up here and try and get this portal. Kingpin's going to go down here and pick up this citizen. So at least I'm going to be ahead on, I've got this side covered because I can easily get there. Shuri, I had no idea what I was going to do with. So as you said with Strange, putting him in the middle and figuring out where she needs to go to support. I was leaning slightly more towards the left because I really wanted to have some more certainty with Green Goblin and Venom doing their job.
Particularly having the rerolls in combination with the Incinerate from Green Goblin, I think you're just you spend a power from Green Goblin to remove my defense dice, or you reroll it, but arguably remove it, and then you spend potentially 2 power from Shuri or 1 power from Shuri to get that extra attack from you, and that's kind of a 2 damage swing, and that's enough to kind of end games. I felt like Shuri definitely wasn't gaining enough power that game to really have an impact, but in saying that, she ended up taking out Vision for two hits, which is all she needed at that point,
Exactly. So that's where I've been using her recently a lot because it's range 5 and you can only do 1 damage, but it's range 5 and it's still 6 dice, right? And so you're likely to get through at least one damage when you're attacking someone, just because your average is going to be 3.3, right?
Yeah.
Damage. That's going to be your average output. And it's energy, which, statistically is the lowest defense stat. So if you just need to nip through 1 damage, 2 damage, you suddenly just do 2 basic attacks, even though it's not really going to get you much. Like, you're just going to, if you're dazing someone.
Small, keep in mind as well. So like you can just
Exactly.
This is the interesting thing that we've said a couple of times, where you've got someone like Venom who they've got these huge bases similar to MODOK, absolutely massive bases. So when they move small, it doesn't seem small. It actually is closer to a medium movement on a small base, give or take.
Yeah. Exactly.
But when Shuri's pushing you small, like she doesn't care how big your base is, because she's pushing you the exact same that you're moving, right? So your things like your Kingpins, your Venoms, your MODOKs, they suffer so much from getting pushed by Shuri that small. Absolutely huge.
Because you're basically taking an action away, right? You're basically you're basically staggering them, for want of a better word. Because you're like, okay, if you want to get back in this fight, you're going to have to do a small move, right? And obviously, it's going to depend on who's around you and the surroundings and stuff like that. But so that's the first time I've used Green Goblin in a pretty much the last time I used him. The first time I used him, he stayed healthy. The second time, he flipped and immediately got murked. The first thing that happened was they just did 5 damage and completely took him off the table. That's the first time I've had him on his injured side going around, and he absolutely romps. I was so surprised at his output.
Yeah.
Because you're generally generating 3 to 4 power return when he's on his bad side.
Well, particularly because unstable psyche, you've got your 1 guaranteed. If you're on any form of objective or holding any kind of obsec that involves you getting extra power, that's 2. And your unstable psyche's probably going to get maybe 2 or something like that.
Yeah, so you're not going to be able to get Oh, actually, you might be able to. That's a good question, because you can't interact or hold objective tokens, but I don't know if that means if that applies to serum canisters or not. I'll have to double check that. A lot of them just
have it like when it's around, but
yeah,
all, you're
but yeah, you got 5
get,
dice.
2 to 3 of that at least.
You're averaging like 2. Yeah, you're averaging about 2.
It's 50-50 on each dice, right? So 2.5.
Yeah, but then but I'm thinking about crits. Yeah, so 2.5. Yeah. I always think about crits that generate an additional hit. But you wouldn't generate additional crits.
On the flip side, considering dealing with these tanky characters like Black Panther and Kingpin, I think Hawkeye was actually doing really well, just throwing out as many tokens as I can, and that's what you got to do on those particular characters. Putting a slow on Black Panther means that he's always spending his power to pounce and just not getting to attack very well. Obviously, Kingpin doesn't matter, but putting shock or poison on Kingpin means that he is literally just a 4-threat wall, so I can kind of ignore him in the general fight of things.
Exactly.
If ever I can flip over this objective or something like that, then I just don't feel like he can ever really kill me without doing a Hail to the King. And something like Poison early on can stop him generating that power if I literally just don't attack him and focus on everyone else. Give him the shock as well. Like, you're spending a bunch of turns with him to just remove these conditions rather than actually doing anything else. So Hawkeye definitely felt like a pretty solid answer to Kingpin. Valkyrie was there for an extra good punch, because Hawkeye needed some support. I couldn't have committed 4 to the right side of the board and just had Hawkeye trying to weirdly deal with these 2. Though, maybe in hindsight, maybe I could have actually just committed the 4 to this side, and just guaranteed this win on Venom and Green Goblin, and then pushed.
Well, that's the thing. So
here, right?
Yeah, debuffing Green Goblin and Venom is like a really good play. I think putting the bleed on Black Panther was a really smart move. I think whenever you're versing Black Panthers, that's like the first thing you want to do is try and get a bleed on him.
Yeah.
Because basically he's going to tank through so much. Unless if you've got a heavy Mystic person, like if you're rocking a MODOK or if you're rocking a Loki or someone who's got like a massive, or Ebony Maw, massive Mystic attack, then he's suddenly not adding his blanks.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he's a lot easier to deal with. But if your team's really low on Mystic,
felt good against Black Panther because they can spend that power to
spend that power.
Suddenly he's nowhere near as tanky.
And he's not doing crits anymore.
Yeah, as a Hawkeye, you give him the Hex, you give him the Bleed.
Full quiver. Exactly.
Mystic, right?
Yeah.
I'm throwing 5 dice at you. You've got your 3 defense, sure, but that's it. And they're not critting or anything like that. So yeah, definitely pretty brutal and can take him off relatively quickly there.
Absolutely.
But that's obviously only if you're in the Defenders affiliation. Otherwise, you've got to try and figure out who's in your team is doing Mystic damage, and send them that way.
Definitely, yeah. But no, it was a really solid game. I think there was definitely some some unfortunate rolling and some great rolling. Like on top of that, like I wasn't. It's not that I was like rolling hot, but there were definitely some above average. It was just bad, but I mean that's the swing of the game, isn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
But no, it was good. It was it had some really good moments in it. The I think the saddest thing for me was the Sons of Cinnabis getting interrupted by Venom.
Look, it happens. I think the Grievous Wounds definitely at least put some work in there. I think if I did the Grievous Wounds maybe on first turn, I think you ended up healing 2 damage from Venom. So removing that.
Oh, that first time I did 3 because that was the
3?
days into Doctor Strange. I healed 3 back.
So doing something like that, I think earlier, which I definitely forgot about that one. I definitely think would have put in a good chunk more effort, and potentially Days Venom a little earlier, and that meant I could have focused a bit more on Green Goblin. But look, that's something that I can learn for myself. The best way to learn is by making these mistakes, then you don't forget them in the future. But I already felt awesome about Grievous Wounds. That card definitely felt very, very good in that scenario. And look, if I see someone without Doctor Strange or Venom on their team, I'm not going to take it. It's fairly simple. But if I see those 2 characters in a list, I think I'm forced to take Grievous Wounds. And if they're trying to do like these 4-head, 5-head mind games where they don't take the healing, so I do take the Grievous Wounds, like, sure, you've wasted one of my cards, but then I also don't have to verse Venom or Doctor Strange, and I'm mostly okay with that.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, so you've got, you can see if they've got lots of healers, but even if they're bringing Medpack, or there's like, I think there's 3 or 4, I think there's
Medpack,
3 different, and I know there's another one, but basically there's at least 3 ones that heal. And if you see that they've got a couple of them in their list, like Medpack, I think in the last TTS tournament was taken 48% of the time.
Yeah, okay.
Like out of the whole crew of people that play, which I did a bunch of players, I think 48% of them took Medpack. So it's a really popular card. So bringing Grievous Wounds, or even just having Grievous Wounds in your 8, is suddenly going to make your opponent think, should I bring Medpack because he's just going to Grievous Wound me? And that's where that really interesting discussion about mind games and comes into this whole thing.
Character without a Daze token. So like it's like taking a free Doctor Strange. What is it? Oshta's Refuge. So very, very strong. 3 damage is really massive. Like we saw, you can spike out and hit the 5, but when you've got these characters with like 7 health, like a Kingpin or something like that already have relatively high defense, someone like a Venom that you just desperately don't need to get wounded on that turn, you heal the 3, they try and punch him back, you get to so many snacks them back and get it back again. So like very, very strong card, and Grievous Wounds just allows you to guarantee that last bit of extra damage, which is so important.
Exactly. And like it's such a good shutdown for Venom. Like he's hating that. He's not liking that at all. Because I mean, like so many snacks into We Are Venom is like such a staple of Venom's character, is that you go, cool, you've hit me, I'm gonna hit you back, and I'm gonna heal the damage that you just did on me. Like it's such a solid thing. And the chances are
I've spent a bunch of power on your turn for you to take 3 damage and for me to be exactly where I was previously, but 3 power less. And if I can just spend a power 4 damage on people, like, don't worry, I would do it.
Yeah, exactly. So no, look, really, really good game. I think it's I was surprised that, I mean, I just analyzing it would have been a bit better, but the Kingpin Black Panther on that side of the table would you need such a heavy.
I wasn't dealing with it anytime soon. I legitimately think the best solution here is like kind of Hawkeye put in enough tokens on them that will eventually empty the game, and then like running past them, using Hook Arrow to get to here, moving here, and just like taking that objective.
I think you just need like a solid heavy hitter. Like I reckon you just need someone like a Venom or like a Thor.
You can just concede that side, right, and say, look, I'm not going to kill these people. What kind of slippery or slightly tanky people can I put there where we just literally spend all our power reflipping this objective? And then the game is like, whoever gets the citizen first, dazing them, taking the citizen, and kind of like, kiting or like backtracking away to say, hey, cool, I've got the 2 objectives here. Maybe even you can have, that 1 inheritor portal, but I've still got the 2 objectives out of the 3, so I'm technically winning on that side. And again, at some point, if we, as an example, kind of get somewhere here where I keep trying to kite back and pull, then all of a sudden Hawkeye does like a move, hook shot, move, take this objective, and suddenly you're like, oh god, now I've got to like pounce and then move small and attack back onto here or something like that,
Yeah, and then try and flip it. Yeah, exactly. So I think it was a good game. I guess takeaways for me is that Spidey Foes, like my third game of Spidey Foes, is Green Goblin hits like an absolute truck.
Definitely
I
puts
think
in some
his
work.
injured side is better than his healthy side.
Oh yeah, that was the intention though, right?
With I think his risk then
Like
is that
5 Mystic defense. That's crazy.
but 3's everywhere else and no other defensive tech.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that, especially if you're in a situation when you're being flipped, your opponent is generally going to be like, you're generally going to have, it's going to be further into the game where power is a little bit more abundant, like it's a little bit more high.
Well,
And
again,
so
if
I
you
think,
get in dazed, you flip in. Your chances are you've got 5 plus power. So if
yeah,
you end up with the priority token, you can just turn around and just start smashing face, right?
yeah, and so that I think that's a really important. I think if you're ever versing a Green Goblin, just for anyone who's listening and wants advice, I think if you have priority and you've just flipped a Green Goblin, I think almost every time the first thing you need to do is just try and completely burst it, like completely take them out, because it's only 5. It's only 5 health, and it's generally it's 3 physical, 3 energy. Yeah, and so like if you can just do a bonkers turn, or even just like try and do as much damage as humanly possible, and just try and shut that down, because if he's free to go and like just murder things, he's gonna murder things. But he's a glass cannon, as we discussed. So I mean, all you need to do is suddenly like, all you need to do is start doing stuff. So I think it might actually really be interesting in something like Web Warriors. Funnily enough, Green Goblin, because giving him a defensive reroll.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And you can potentially pull him out of the way with like Ghost Spider and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
so if he
exactly.
is in a really dangerous position, you can just like kind of, let's say you don't have priority, you can just try and get him out of there a little bit, stop a lot of the a lot of the strikes and things are range 2 and stuff like that. So just a couple of those cheeky high hitters, you know, like Sword Strike on Zemo or Dragon Fang on Valkyrie, just get him out of the range 2 of that can be pretty huge.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I also think Kingpin would be really good in Web Warriors, because his overall bulkiness in defense, if you add a reroll to that, he's becoming unkillable, right?
And he can just sit on objectives where, you know, you turn around and say, cool, Kingpin, go on that objective, sit there, that's yours now. Particularly if you're re-rolling, we're going to deal with
to reroll
your
crit as well while you're sitting on the objective. Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm always thinking in terms of Web Warriors, but I think this was actually a really solid list. I was quite happy with it. I was missing Wong in R&D. I think I've started to clutch on that a little bit too much, so I'm glad I didn't bring it, because like I'm just so used to giving everyone else on my team an extra power. And so I think I think it's good that I start branching out and not always bringing Wong.
Yep.
He's,
of course. So look, again, thank you everyone for paying attention on this one. Really, really, really appreciate it. If you do like these segments of kind of the breakdown at the end of kind of the post-game chat and what we think about it and how we go, comment below. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us maybe what you want to hear a bit more, what we should focus on, whether you want us to focus more on objectives or kind of the cards that we're choosing, or focus more on the tactics cards. More than happy to do some rundowns on those type of games as well. So please do comment below, like the video. If you've watched the other ones, you've heard me say this spiel before, but as always, check out all our social medias. Ali's going to tell you how you can do that for our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Please check out generalgames.com.au. That's our website. It's got all of your awesome pre-orders available for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and normally around 20% plus below RRP, which is absolutely mental. So please do check that out. But otherwise, again, as always, much love, Bill. Thank you very much for coming in on this Wednesday. I'll see you at the very least next Wednesday as well.
Exactly, yeah, if not earlier.
But congratulations on the win. Hashtag Bill Streak.
Hashtag threat level 2, baby.
Thank you all very much. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Ellie. If you like that video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more interesting content. You can also follow us on Facebook for more information and events. Likewise, follow us on Instagram for those behind the scenes photos and videos. See ya!